Hey, good morning, everybody. Well, it's Tuesday because I missed Monday because I was a little bit too busy um, not thinking about it, just dealing with the whole issues around our coronavirus going on through the whole country and through the whole world. So we're starting again today, Tuesday. So glad you're here. I'm Rita Hickman, body mind expert, shiatsu massage therapist, and I help women deal with narcissistic and toxic relationships. So, there's a lot of information out there about how to deal with a narcissist. And if you are living with one right now, I'm sure that you are walking on eggshells and very uncomfortable and cannot get a break. And in fact, there's probably a good chance that you're not able to avoid most of the arguments which are coming up or most of the tension that's coming up. And you know that even if you have a sense of peace, even if there's an openness or a quietness for a time, you're always sort of watching and waiting for when the next blow up's going to happen, when the next chaos or crisis, or when it's all going to go down the toilet. Because you know from your personal experience, when your relationship with someone who has a mental health concern, like narcissism or other high narcissistic um, issues like borderline personality or ADD, ADHD, or bipolar, things like that, you know that there's no solution, there's no answer. So if you're feeling like you're in a no-win situation right now, and a lot of people are, because one, you can't talk to anybody about the toxic environment that you're living in because they'll think you're crazy, and they're also focused on themselves. They're not focused on the trauma that you're going through. So there's a level of guilt and shame and not being able to get the secrets out, not being able to talk about the things which, you're really struggling with. So there's that. But then there's also the fear or the worry of, it's setting off the narcissist, of how do you manage this relationship so that everybody survives going through this crisis. And it's going to be tough for a lot of people. Let's just be honest. When you're in a home with someone who has mental health issues and you can't get away from them, and they're bored and they're distraught and they're feeling the anxiety and you're feeling the anxiety, you're going to have a lot more conflict. And because of your personality, you probably want to avoid the conflict. And I don't blame you, because when it spirals down, when you have one person who's angry and another person who's angry back, and it's really a no-win situation. So what does the whole gray rock thing mean? And you've probably heard a lot of stuff out there. And a lot of things around narcissism are very negative. They're very sort of, someone is evil and they have a hole in their heart, and they were broken when they were young. I mean, there's all this charged language. And what that really does for the person who is in a relationship with the narcissist is it makes the whole situation feel even more helpless and feel even more emotional and dramatic. When someone's struggling with mental health and they have high narcissistic qualities, and you can't get away from them, you need to seriously learn how to manage the situation inside of yourself as well. So gray rock is one of the tools which I'd like to share, but also give a little bit different perspective on. Because as I've been talking about, there's a whole lot of charged language out there, a lot of charged emotions around what narcissists are. They're evil, they're broken, they're out to get you, they're predators, they're gaslighting you, they're making you feel like you're crazy. And all of this is true. That is what a narcissist does. And it does make people feel crazy. And you probably feel pretty crazy right now. And so one of the tactics out there is going gray rock. Gray rock is when you don't respond, when you wait and you don't respond. Now, I'm not crazy about the term gray rock, mainly because it makes me think of me shutting myself down. That what I'm doing is I'm freezing myself in place again. And you know what? When I was a kid, I got traumatized a lot that way. When people would go into fight or flight, I would go into freeze or faint. And I would naturally go, quote unquote, gray rock. And then I'd feel like I was just trying to put up walls or armor to protect myself while I couldn't move. It made me feel more helpless. It made me feel frozen and numb and disassociated and disconnected. And some people will interpret, that term gray rock in that way. They'll interpret that I have to be like a rock. I have to shut down. I have to close down. I have to go away. I have to disassociate. I have to numb out. That's how a lot of people look at what gray rock looks like. I'd like to use a different term. I'd like to use the term pause. When you're in a difficult situation and a narcissist is needing to feel in control by making you angry or manipulating you or expressing themselves about how you're bad or wrong or evil or you're broken or, that you're messed up. When they're doing that, you can either go into an adversary sort of energy, which they feel, and they feel gray rock. When you're actively numbing yourself out, people feel that. And unfortunately, they react more. It's almost like when you've got a pond and you've got a metal wall in the pond. When the wind comes and it creates waves, those waves bounce off the metal wall, but they get stronger because the energy multiplies. It's not allowed to dissipate. It's not allowed to just naturally sort of ebb away, like what normal shores are supposed to do along a lake or a pond or the ocean. They're supposed to break up that energy and disperse it. What gray rock does is it acts like you're a metal retaining wall, and it will be less than if you argued with them, but it could create more passive aggressiveness, more underlying sort of things which are going on. So it's the intention behind you going gray rock, which makes the biggest difference. If your intention is to shut down, is to disassociate, to be numb, so that their energy bounces off of you, that energy is still going to be running around. But when you choose to think about you pausing, what you're doing is you're pausing and you're looking at the situation. You're noticing that you're having an emotional reaction inside of you, stress or tension, and you're pausing before it becomes something. Many times we think that we can only address something when we're in the middle of it. But in reality, we can avoid a lot of negative situations. When you tune into yourself and you recognize that you're uncomfortable and you recognize that the situation is stressful, what you do for you is you pause. You don't go gray rock and shut down and slow everything down so that you're nothing. Instead, what you do is you choose to pause. It looks the same way because there isn't a response. There isn't an aggressive act coming at. It's, kind of going neutral. But once you get a little bit better at going neutral or going gray rock, I want you to consider pausing instead. Do you see how that energy feels different? Let's say you're trapped in the house and suddenly you hear a little bit of a noise and you're like, oh man, this is going to be a problem. Now your option is to go into the room and address the problem. Your option is to stay right there and pray that the problem goes away on its own. Or your other option is to say, you know what? This is a tense situation. I can feel that. And instead of waiting for the conflict and waiting for, someone to attack me, I'm going to make a different choice. I'm going to pause, get myself back into a grounded space, maybe go for a little bit of a walk outside, go get a breather. And once I'm in a better place, then I'm going to come in and be able to deal with the situation. Maybe in your pause, you drink some chamomile tea. Maybe in your pause, you take CBD oil. Maybe in your pause, you go for a walk or do breathing exercises. But either way, you pause. It's not about being in the middle of a confrontation and going numb, because as I said, then the energy, it may bounce off of you, but it's still bouncing around. Whereas if you're in a good place, If you're in a place where you are centered and where you are calm, maybe in your pause, you took some time to connect with a friend or watch some videos that remind you who you are, or do some EFT tapping. Maybe you used it to clear your head or get a little bit of caffeine so that you have some clarity in your brain, or a little bit of sugar. Maybe you're a little brain foggy and you need to think clearer. Your pause gives you the opportunity to not only react to the situation, but to evaluate it, to look at it from a bigger picture and not come from a reactionary point of view. And you pause as soon as you feel uncomfortable, which is usually before the crisis happens, which is usually before things go to hell. You can kind of notice when it's a little off. Breathe, listen, pause, get grounded again, and then look at the situation. Now, you're not always able to. Sometimes you're trapped somewhere. You're trapped in an apartment, you're trapped in a car, there's no getting out. So you want to think ahead of what you're going to do when you pause. Maybe when you pause, you go to the bathroom. You're like, I'm noticing this is a problem. So you go to the bathroom and you shut the door and lock it if you need to, so that you can get a little bit of a breathing space and get yourself back level. Maybe you take your Xanax. Maybe you drink some valerian tea. Maybe use, some other tool that you've developed that helps keep you level and calm. One of my favorites is GABA, G-A-B-A. It's a neurotransmitter supplement that gives you feels like you're wrapped in a little bit of bubble wrap, something your body naturally makes to keep you calm and level. So instead of waiting for something nasty to happen, walking on eggshells, waiting for the blow up, waiting for things to go wrong in an instant, use your senses, use your intuition. Instead of waiting to be into conflict and shut yourself down again, which means that you're still going into fight or flight, instead, let's try something softer, like neutral or pausing. And when you pause, your energy changes. When you're not in a conflict sort of space, and when you're not in your own space of fight or flight, when you're in a space of groundedness, you're able to navigate around the situation. You're able to look at somebody and they yell at you and you nod. And then usually it passes, it goes away. Or you say, you know what, thanks for telling me this. I need to go to the bathroom right now. You know what, I appreciate it. I need to take a walk, or I need to call a friend. I've got an appointment with somebody. You get to have your backup plans in place. When you feel uncomfortable and you feel that something might be going awry, you don't have to stay there and shut down and disassociate, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of gray rock. You're becoming a rock where everything's bouncing off of, but it's still trapped in the house that you're in. So instead, a softer way is to pause. A softer way is to, as soon as you feel uncomfortable, that's when you pause. You don't wait to pause until you're in the middle of the craziness, although that can work very well too. Don't react. Just pause and observe what's going on. See how it unfolds. See if the person stops on their own because you're not responding. See if they go deeper into their understanding. See if they apologize. Not like apologize, you know what I mean? A narcissist sort of apologize. But maybe the energy ebbs down, because mental health is tricky. Mental health is based on insecurities. It's based on chemical imbalances. It's based on low blood sugar. It's based on a lot of things. And so when someone is behaving badly, there's a lot going on. And sometimes them just expressing themselves without a response, they're able to self-level. Now, it's not fair. Of course, it's not fair. You shouldn't have to sit there and be beat up, emotionally beat up in some way, because, you don't deserve it. Absolutely. But fighting back, it's if it's not strategic, if it's not done through a focus of compassion of some sort, it's going to bounce back and it's going to get worse and it's going to exacerbate and it's going to magnify. Whereas many times, if you take a pause, especially a timely pause, the situation will diffuse itself and you're able to come back and someone's in a little bit better space. If you feel energy is going wrong, you don't have to confront it and you don't have to tolerate it. You can feel it, You can pause within yourself. You can do what you personally need to do to re-level, to get level again. You can do that. And then you can deal with the situation. You don't ever have to feel trapped, which is, I know, how we end up feeling when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. You end up feeling trapped, but you don't have to feel trapped. As soon as you feel uncomfortable, which hopefully you have a good intuition around that by now, you're able to leave. Whether it's go for a drive because there's just something you have to get for the pharmacy, or go to the park, or just drive around. Do something that needs to be done. Give the whole space, give the whole thing a break without you needing to respond. And if you're already level in yourself, pause, make sure that you're in a good space, and then you can continue with what you're doing and see how the situation unfolds. And if at any time you feel uncomfortable, feel free to excuse yourself and go to the bathroom, even if they follow you. You always have the right to take a pause. Even if they're banging on the door, you always have the right to take a pause. If you feel that you're threatened in any way, leave. You always have the right to leave. You never have to stay when you're being emotionally or viciously abused in any way. You don't have to stay. And you're in better shape if you recognize that it may be appearing, that you pause, another term for gray rock, pause, evaluate the situation, and make a choice from there. You don't have to shut down. You don't have to disassociate yourself anymore from your body. You don't have to tolerate being emotionally abused. You don't have to tolerate being triggered. You don't have to tolerate having all of your wounds being shoved in your face. You don't have to tolerate any of that at all. Pay attention, pause, and then see how you want to handle the situation. And in your pause, that's when you do the things that bring you back to level, okay? If you know some woman who needs this, please pass it on, because a lot of women are struggling right now. A lot of empaths, compassionate people. They're in situations that they can't get out of, or they feel they can't get out of. They feel helpless to. Maybe they've got children, or maybe they freeze in place, or maybe they think it'll just make everything worse. But you know what? When you course correct, when you pause before things start to spiral down, it doesn't make it worse. It actually gives it some space usually to diffuse. Gives it a little bit of space to sort out. And if they're attacking you over text, if they're calling you, you get to not respond. You get to still be in your pause until you're ready, until you're grounded, until you're in a space. It's not about what the other person is doing. It's about how you feel. So if you need to if you feel someone needs this, please pass this on. If you need to reach out, please reach out. We've got lots of different options, one-on-one coaching, a year-long healer apprenticeship. We've got a beautiful coaching group. We've got a whole library of free narcissism live streams. And tonight and through the whole coronavirus thing, we'll be doing different public events online. Tonight, we're going to be doing chanting. Should be a lot of fun. I'll make sure I'll post the event on my page. And if you want to show up for the chanting, please feel free. I've got a very good friend of mine who's going to be leading it for everybody over a Zoom call. So if you're excited, if you're interested, I'll make sure that you get the link to join Zoom. And we'll be doing future things. I'll be looking at doing a psychic salon with a friend of mine from Australia. I'll be looking to do a Reiki healing event. So we'll do these online, and we'll try to keep them free or cheap so everybody can attend, and do the things that help keep you level, that help keep you balanced. It's these things that you do ahead of time, the chanting and the breathing and the community. If you do these things and feel you're well, you're better able to stay in your rational mind and not get triggered into fight or flight, no matter what the situation. You're more capable of being able to remember to pause, of being remembered to treat yourself with respect and love. It gives you that opportunity to get back to your center. And when you do all these nourishing things on the front end, it helps you stay in your center. Okay? So good luck. I'm with you. You aren't alone. If you want some great community, tonight's a great night, Tuesday. Let me know, and keep an eye out for a link to the Zoom call. If you're interested, I'll be sharing the event in a couple hours. And I think that's it. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I will talk to you this evening. Bye.